Completely stop bloating and lose 15 pounds in just 6 weeks seems pretty hard to accomplish, but we're gonna break down how an internet influencer did just that. But before we get started, I'm Dr. Nick Zyrowski, and I started my natural health practice 6 years ago in order to help you take control of your health naturally, because true health only comes naturally. Before we get started with the video, I wanna let you know that my NutriCore one-on-one health consulting program is open. This is a program where we help people take control of their health naturally and get to the root cause of the problem so that they can reverse conditions naturally, but also promote longevity. If you wanna learn more about it, click on the link in the description below.
I have since then been able to diagnose the problem, get rid of the bloat, and lose 15 of those 20 pounds in 6 weeks.
15 pounds, 6 weeks. See, here's one of the things that's really interesting about when you become bloated is that you actually gain a lot of extra weight and you start getting swelling around your entire body.
I was tracking all of my food, and at one point I was so scared to eat anything because everything seemed to be making me bloated that I was only consuming like 500 to 800 calories a day. That's like borderline eating disorder, and I've had an eating disorder before. I've fully recovered from that period, and I swore I would never go back to that period in time. And so I was like, this is not okay. So I started eating normal calories again. I tried a variety of different diets. I tried low carb, high protein, high carb, low fat. I tried high fat, low carb, the keto diet, but not one diet ever worked. I really drove myself insane during this period of time.
The most important thing you have to understand is when you have this issue with bloating, you can't diet and exercise your way out of it if you're not addressing it properly. And it's very easy to not address it properly, right? You search on Dr. Google and you start finding all this crazy stuff. Well, you start going down the wrong path. In her case, and I love how she's detailing this, because she's like, I started actually moving towards eating disorder territory, eating so little food, because once again, she related her bloating to a weight loss issue. It wasn't about weight loss. It was just about solving the bloating, and you can't solve it by eating less food.
Towards the end of last year, 2018, and the beginning of this year, 2019, I just about completely lost motivation to work out, and I really felt hopeless.
So you put in all that work. She did the investment into weight loss. She put in the hard work into exercise, got no results, and here she is, just struggling. And this is where it's so sad, because many people give up at this point. I'm here to tell you that there are solutions and there are ways to go about this. So you have to just make sure, first of all, you're going down the right path. If we look in Nikki's case, if she would have been going down the right path originally, which of course, you know, hindsight's 20/20, right? But if she would have been going down the right path originally, she wouldn't have been so frustrated. So that's why, like, when we have these different issues, we have to understand that maybe we're going the wrong direction with them. We can't double down on the wrong strategy. We have to look to a new strategy.
My last push of Google searches, YouTube searches, and just really trying to find anyone who was going through a similar thing as me and like what they did to fix it led me to thinking that I might have candida, which is a yeast overgrowth in your gut.
Now, this is a good guess. Like I said before, people go on Dr. Google and they start looking for this stuff, and then you start coming up with many wild things, but this one's actually more close and more related to her particular problem. Truthfully, many people who have problems with bloating actually do have a candida component to it. So though it's not entirely true that this may be all you have, but it typically is a component, because the same broken mechanisms that cause bloating allow for that environment of candida to just thrive. I can relate with so many words of Nikki's story because I was there at one point, and at this point in my life, I've helped hundreds of people overcome it simply because I understand what needs to be done in order to reverse this problem.
I tested for food allergies, I tested for vitamin deficiencies, I tested for thyroid problems, I tested for my blood pressure, I tested for every possible other thing that could be wrong in my body other than gut health. And to my relief slash never-ending frustration, all of my test results came back completely normal.
This is a problem that many people face. They go to the doctor with this particular issue, they test for everything under the sun, it all comes back negative, they're left with no answer. What will happen is the white blood cells will typically be high. This is because there's a bacterial infection in the gut. The immune system is ramped up because of that. Another thing that you'll typically see on a lab test is fat-soluble vitamins will be depleted. That's because basically the bacteria is eating them and you're not getting them. So therefore you'll find a depletion of vitamin A, D, E, and K. This problem is known as SIBO. That stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Bacteria that's in the large intestine, that is supposed to be in the large intestine, goes where it's not supposed to be, and that's in the small intestine. As a result, almost everything you eat causes a whole bunch of fermentation and bloating and discomfort and really messes with your life.
I developed SIBO, bacteria that crept up into my small intestine where it's not supposed to be. That was like the wrong side of town for that bacteria. And the solution to it is the next part of the problem. The way the medical industry wants you to get rid of SIBO is, get this, with more antibiotics. It's pretty nuts on your gut, and there's only about a 50% success rate.
You can see, first of all, going the traditional route for this, $2,000. That's insane. Second problem is that the medical system just goes and hands out antibiotics like they're Tic Tacs. For the first 15 years of my life, I was probably taking antibiotics every single year, sometimes twice a year. So it's no surprise that once I hit my 20s, I dealt with this problem of SIBO. When we look at the medical system using antibiotics to solve SIBO, first of all, the success rate isn't great, but in many cases, people actually end off worse because not only did you kill the bad bacteria, but you killed the good bacteria, and then the bad bacteria can just flourish after that.
Searched alternate solutions because mama ain't gonna spend $2,000 if she don't have to. And I actually found out that the herbal remedy for SIBO takes a little bit longer to work, but it has a little bit higher of a success rate at 51%.
She's right, it will take longer. The herbal route always is gonna take longer, but the good news is you're actually fixing the problem. You're getting to the root cause. You could take antibiotics and probably feel better initially, but the problem is there's many other issues that will show up later on down the road if you don't address this at the root cause, or you'll just have a reoccurring SIBO infection month after month.
At the end of April 2019, I dove deep into that herbal supplement route. And that in combination with a low FODMAPs diet and intermittent fasting, which I'm still pretty much doing still. The herbal remedy I went with was a kit that I purchased from a doctor online.
Bam, all right. So I was so excited to see that I was able to help Nikki with this, because the first time I ever saw this video, I was like, you know, just so interested in her story, because literally it's like documenting my own story and documenting maybe your story if you're dealing with this issue. I came across that I was able to help her using the same information that helped me transform my health, transform my gut, and also help me get my life back. And so cool to see that the same thing that I used worked for her as well.
The doctor guy that had made this kit had also mentioned in one of his videos that you should do intermittent fasting in conjunction with the low FODMAPs diet. So I did that.
Those who are suffering from SIBO, you definitely want to throw that intermittent fasting in there. Now, I also want to say that it is not alone going to fix the problem. However, it's highly beneficial. In today's society, what happens is people are just grazing all the time. And if you're somebody who's prone to SIBO, maybe from genetic factors or some other issues, one of the things that you'll find is it's very hard to get rid of if you're not doing at least 16 and 8 intermittent fasting. So Nikki's right on track here, and in order to reverse this issue, intermittent fasting is almost a must.
An appointment with a registered dietitian who specializes in gut health, because I just wanted to make sure I was like going in the right direction. You know, like at this point I had done everything just on my own, based on my own Google searches and research, and testing for SIBO, but I didn't have anyone like telling me this is exactly what you have to do, because I didn't go with like the medical route with the antibiotics. It took about a month to get a spot with her, and by the time I came in, I had already made significant progress with bloating and lost 10 pounds. So she took me off of the antimicrobials and we retested for SIBO. But during this initial consultation, she was really focused on stress management.
Stress management is a big one. So when she went to work with the naturopath, she said, look, we gotta focus on stress. This is one of the big things I faced when I actually had SIBO. I was in the midst of going through school, I was taking taking all these boards. I had a family, you know, looking at what I was gonna do during my career. I mean, there was a lot going on and there was a lot of stress. So I understand this, and this stress can actually cause major disruption in your gut. It can cause intestinal permeability. It affects the gut lining. It can cause issues with the stomach's pH, which can cause many issues with bacteria overgrowth. It causes problems with, you know, the bacterial balance. And so many things can happen as a result of too much stress. And when we look at stress, whether it's thoughts, traumas, or toxins, your body doesn't differentiate between them. Stress on the body is stress. Period. The
retest results came back in a few weeks and I am currently SIBO free. Yay! But don't celebrate too hard because SIBO has a tendency to come back for people. So I have to be really, really careful during this time.
She is right on point here. Her SIBO is gone, that's great, but be very careful because it can easily come back. And that's the thing that's so frustrating about SIBO, is it's complicated. It's complicated in the way of, first of all, depending on how severe it is, it can take longer for you to actually reverse this issue. Depending on what mechanisms are messed up and why you have SIBO, it can go and take longer to reverse this issue. Now, the other thing is that it can easily come back. Let's say you stop the supplements and everything is, you know, hunky-dory, you think you're doing great. There's genetic factors that are associated with some people getting SIBO. The other thing to know, some people are just more prone to it. So you still have to be very diligent. Diet, you have to be diligent with intermittent fasting, and you just have to make sure you put the right things in place. Nikki went to a naturopath. She probably spent a lot of money doing that. Since she did this, I have put together a program to help people with SIBO, to help you understand all these different concepts as to why it takes longer for some people, how to, you know, scale back on the supplements appropriately, how to manage keeping SIBO free for, you know, years and years to come. I put together an education program to help with all these concepts so that you don't keep getting a reoccurring SIBO infection.
This is a picture of me from the end of 2018 in December. It was from a girls trip we did in Mexico. This was taken in like first thing in the morning, like before we even went to breakfast or anything. I had not consumed any food. This is a completely empty stomach, and I'm not shaming my body in this photo. I'm just saying that this amount of bloating was not normal for me. And that is what I woke up to pretty much every morning for the past 3 years. This is a photo that I took in July of this year, 2019. It's the first time that I wore a bikini in 3 years because of the bloating stuff. And this photo I took last week and is the first time I ever wore a crop top ever, like in my life.
This is awesome. So you can see that her gut health was transformed. You can see that it was more than that. It was her self-confidence. It was her ability to just enjoy life. And so, you know, these problems are so frustrating because, I mean, nobody wants to walk around with a big belly when they're not fat. Like I said, I had that issue. I remember looking in the mirror going like, my gosh, I have this big belly, but none of it's fat. It's just all this belly. What is that?
You come from, flubber? I'm so full of bacon, my body's meant for shaking.
And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I just kept living life like that. When you can transform your gut health like this and then it changes your appearance, that's a huge deal.
15 pounds, but then 3 inches off my waist, 3 inches off my bust, which was, I lost some boobs, but whatever. 3 inches off my hips, and this one is actually the most surprising to me. I lost 2.5 inches off of each thigh. So that's like 5 inches total. And I never really paid attention to my thighs or ever cared, but like, yeah, it actually made a huge difference.
One of the things that you're gonna notice is that you're gonna lose the bloating in the stomach. But as you lose that bloating there, you start to just lose that inflammation throughout the entire body.
Sharing this with you because I really didn't think it was possible. At one point, I thought that maybe it had to do with age or genetics and there was nothing I could do about it. Turns out that gut health is like a huge thing, and a lot of people think that it's just like a trend that's happening right now, I think because it's new, but there's actually tons of research that is out there right now to support that your gut and your mind might be linked, and that makes a lot of sense because when my gut was all bananas, my mind was going bananas too, and now not so much.
She's 100% right. People who suffer from gut issues suffer from brain issues. I always say I've never met somebody with a severe gut issue that doesn't also have a severe brain issue. Gut on fire equals brain on fire, and as a result, you can have anxiety, depression, brain fog, poor brain endurance. Literally your brain doesn't work and it's so frustrating. Props to Nikki for transforming her gut health, but also detailing this so well and helping so many other people transform their gut health as well. I want to put a link to her video in the description below so you could watch the whole thing if you like. I'll also put a link to the kit that she utilized in order to transform her gut health. It is a little bit different today from when she used it because based on the science, constantly evolving, we constantly try to make it a little bit better. So I'll put a link to that kit in the description. Now also what I'll do is I'll put a link to all the different videos and trainings that I've done on SIBO as well, and you can check that out right here. We want to make sure that we're clearing out that bacteria so that we can remove it from our small intestines and have everything start functioning right. It's not about just putting good bacteria in, but it's a lot of times about taking that bacteria out.